Namaskar, I hope I'm audible. A very good morning and good afternoon while we go into the progress into the sessions for this event. I really feel privileged to be part of this very important and crucial event, and I acknowledge the presence of all distinguished dignitaries who are on the dais and also congratulate the people of Kerala for being part of such a wonderful initiative. I'm also grateful to the organizers for facilitating my participating through online mean because of my personal crisis. And I, what I wanted to do today was to share my own slides, but I guess my slides are already shared by the. I'm not able to figure this out. Perhaps it's already shared by the organizers. Maybe we can move on to the first slide. What I want to do today is because there is a lot of has been said about the public distribution system, the food security system in Kerala, and also the need to establish a sustainable food system, the multi-sectoral nature of food security and nutrition, about the economic measures of food security. There's a lot that has been said about Kerala, and not only the southern states, but whole country looks up to states of Kerala for understanding the innovations that the state has been making and how the state has achieved landmark food security and also coverage in terms of distribution of food. There is a lot to learn that uh, we have from the state of Kerala. But I want to do today is also use this opportunity to draw attention of the House towards some perhaps issues that the state might consider looking at closely. If you might have noticed that in and it's also an honor to have Professor Thomas here, who has been involved in been a primary architect of National Food Security Act, which is the central legislation of India trying to strive for ensuring food security for all. And while we are looking at NFSA, perhaps maybe we can look at what Kerala has done for the implementation of National Food Security Act. Very surprisingly, Kerala stood at the 11th rank among different states when it came to the ranking prepared by Ministry of Food and Civil Supplies, Government of India, which was shocking for many people, not only from Kerala, but even from outside. People were wondering what has actually gone wrong when Kerala is not among even top five of the states doing so well in achieving food security, or in fact, implementation of National Food Security Act. So there are a couple of things. Of course, there is a lot to do with the methodology that was adopted for creation of that index of state ranking under NFSA. However, it also provided, if I must say, an opportunity to look closely at what could have been the gaps in terms of, say, output indicators, how food security measures have actually impact the most vulnerable populations, especially children and women. So if you look at the nutrition profile of the state, we might go to slide 3 now. It says that the state of Kerala has actually made, in fact, the state of Kerala is much better when it comes to national average. Maybe go to one previous slide. Um, uh, if you look at the stunting rates, it says that actually stunting over a period between 2015-16 to 1920 has increased in the state of Kerala, which is very worrying. Wasting has very marginally decreased between the same period, and the same has been the situation with relation to underweight. In fact, underweight has increased among children. This is about the data from National Food Security, National Family Health Survey, and we are talking about the undernutrition among children who are below 5 years of age. You can also see that between the same period, which is 1516 and 1920, and mind you, this does not include the impact of COVID because the data collected before COVID, anemia has increased among children and among women, which is especially both among non-pregnant and pregnant women, which is a cause for worry. And similar has been the situation with relation to underweight children, which has not really changed much. So these could have been the gaps when I'm not saying these are the primary indicators to understand what is happening or what is perhaps going wrong, but these are the things that have grabbed the attention of those who analyze nutrition levels. Now, this phenomenon has also been also has what we call it a concentrated characteristics in terms of population. You will see, maybe we can go to the next slide. Next two slides show that this anemia as well as undernutrition is concentrated in two districts, which is Kozhikode, Malappuram, Thrissur, Palakkad, and to an extent Ernakulam. And when it came to anemia among women, even Kannur and Kasaragod are also not doing very well. So there are two things that we have noticed. One thing is there is something that is negatively impacting the nutrition levels, and secondly, there is a phenomenon of concentration. Perhaps there are some more vulnerable groups of population, and in Kerala's case, we have, if you look closely at the data, you'll see that it is a tribal population and even Muslim population that is not doing too well as compared to rest of the population. So these are the things maybe we can have a look at closely when we go forward. Um, but now this is just an overview of what we are trying to analyze here. But uh, what I would like to draw the attention of the House today is it's also because I feel that um, and it's also coming from our own work. And I also feel that whenever we are talking about food security, we are talking about measures. We are also talking about distribution of food, and we are also talking about the content of food security, which includes physical, economic, and social access and food, not only the availability of food, but also means for its procurement. And that embodies, in the sense, the rights-based approach. And that's something which was referred to by Professor Dennings very beautifully. But I would like to go a bit deeper into how right to food approach has been applied internationally to the whole gamut of food security. We might go to the next slides, please. Uh, there is a beautiful set of principles which are called Panther principles. There are 7 principles that are applied to food security, and these are universally accepted human rights principles. And these acronyms, this Panther stands for participation, accountability, non-discrimination, transparency, human dignity, empowerment, and rule of law. On the face of it, these principles might look like just theory and might look like some jargon, but there are means, there are tools that we have been also involved in developing that might be used to apply to understanding what is happening with relation to the rights-based approach or rights-based interventions for ensuring food security for the population. provisions. One illustration of it is something that I have included in my presentation. Maybe we could go to the next slides, please. Which are understanding how National Food Security Act has captured these principles, participation, accountability, non-discrimination, transparency, human dignity, empowerment, and redressal mechanism. So this slide that you can see now, it's actually just an illustration of how these principles might be read into the different sections of National Food Security Act. And also we tried to do some basic assessment of Kerala state food security rules, and then looked at how perhaps people can participate in decision making. For instance, Rule 11 of Kerala state food security rules talk about claims and objections that can be made on the provisional list of priority households. Similar way, you can also see the accountability has been unpacked to understand what exactly it would mean. It would also mean people have information. There are people who are not really performing as per the requirement or as per their designated roles. They are penalized, and there are corresponding provisions included in the state food security rule, and so on and so forth. Similar provisions and similar rules have been included with relation to non-discrimination, where we have inclusion of SC/ST population, women and destitute persons, or persons with disability. Uh, of course, this just provides a sneak peek into what exactly is there in Karnataka, Kerala state food security rules. This slide doesn't talk about what could also be included to make these rules more compliant with these Panther principles. For instance, inclusion of transgender population could have been one of the areas to be looked at. And there are also provisions related to transparency that are there in National Food Security Act, and corresponding provisions have been made in Kerala state food security rules as well. Maybe we can go to the next slide, which is also continuation of the same principles, the human dignity. How do we ensure that people's dignity is intact while availing rights? Because this is not a dole provided by the state, it's a right, an entitlement that people have. So there are different ways of inclusion of content that are complying with these principles, and also the approach, the ways and means, procedures, and systems that may be looked at very closely when we define these provisions in our delegated legislation or the guidelines that are prepared by the state. One can also look at, for instance, the redressal mechanism. Of course, there is a scope, and perhaps one can look at the possibility of ensuring compliance of food security rules with the principles that actually are upheld by FAO and all global food security agencies, to ensure that food security gets converted into right to food for all. And these Panther principles seem to be a link, a medium through which these provisions become rights. Our understanding of what exactly is the situation in Kerala is primarily from secondary sources and some interactions that we had the opportunity to have with state food commissions in Karnataka, the Department of Food and Civil Supplies, while we were engaging with drafting of rules for Kerala food security rules for the state, as well as some interactions that we had with civil society organizations over the past few years. And it is on the basis of these interactions and these understanding that we had this general understanding, and we may not be 100% right in saying that perhaps there are few things that might be considered by the state to look at, which and the first thing of these issues could be the alignment of these rules and procedures with the rights-based approach to food security, as I discussed just now. I'm sorry, there is some typo in this slide, but there is also the studies that we have conducted in the state of Kerala also directed us towards the need for special provisioning for tribal population as well, so that we make sure that their access to, and which is part of the social access phenomenon as proclaimed, as mentioned by FAO as well. There is also one small gap that we looked at while looking at resource allocation. Of course, it's like much better and much higher if you compare with other states. But utilization of the adequate of the allocated budgets may also be one of the things that state may want to consider. And there is one thing that is perhaps moving forward can be looked at in terms of strength, not only strengthening the institutional spaces, for instance, vigilance committees or social audit systems. Um, I guess there is also a need for us to engage as state or state authorities with the civil society organizations. Now, of course, for instance, National Food Security Act had a lot of contributions made by civil society organization or public action as well. And Kerala being the like the center of public action, there is, I guess, there is an added responsibility on the state of Kerala uh, to create more spaces for civil society engagement, where civil society can engage with the state authorities much more constructively. However, there is one thing that I am really very keen on proposing in this important event, which is optimizing progressive realization. Now, this expression called progressive realization is directly drawn from discourse jurisprudence in international law, especially with relation to economic, social, and cultural rights, which provided this kind of flexibility to the states, to the governments, to look at their resources while making any provisions, and um, also ensuring that the objectives that cannot be achieved or worked towards immediately, and those because they cannot be immediate obligations of the states. By states, I mean both central government and state governments, can be put into the category of progressive realization. What has happened, which is like quite unlike of any justiciable law of any country, is that, and especially in the context of India, because this expression is could not be found in any other similar social legislation. But Section 31 particularly talks about certain objectives that can be progressively realized to advance food security for the population. Um, um, what I feel personally is that this is the most underutilized provision of National Food Security Act, because Section 31 refers directly to Schedule 3 of National Food Security Act, one looks at the scope of this particular schedule, you might feel that there is everything that could possibly be included within the overall gamut of food security and nutrition, starting from agrarian reforms that are key to ensuring sustainable production systems. Um, uh, in addition to that, it also talks about um, augmentation of adequate decentralized modern scientific storage. I was listening to one of the representatives from the Department of Food and Civil Supplies. But most importantly, there is another category that talks about certain specific provisions, direct benefits, for instance, safe and adequate drinking water, healthcare, nutritional health, and education support to adolescent girls, and adequate pensions for senior citizens, persons with disability, and single women. I guess these objectives are very important, and as a concept in international law, it has been further defined by many other uh, treaty bodies, for instance. And one thing is the non-regression. That means some provision which is already there, or the situation that exists, it should not go from uh, it should not become worse than what it is now, and that's something that one might definitely ensure. But it also means that it provides us, the state governments, with an opportunity to include references to these objectives in state rules, and on the basis of this schedule, entitlements can be expanded. And similarly, the corresponding role of institutions, for instance, internal grievance redressal mechanism, or district grievance redressal officer, or state food commissions, or even vigilance committees and social audits, should be expanded or should be articulated, considering the scope that has been included in Schedule 3. I guess I have taken, I hope I'm not overshot, but then I would like to conclude here by thanking the organizers for providing me this opportunity, but also mentioning something which has shaped my understanding and continues to inspire many people. What has been said by Professor Amartya Sen and Professor John Rays in their famous book on hunger and public action, that to have resources with the states and with the governments, and still if people are going hungry and children are malnourished, it has to be politically unacceptable and morally outrageous for all of us. Thank you very much.